Now, the left is losing their teeny tiny minds over the brilliantly named Alligator Alcatraz in Florida. The detention centre has been called a Nazi concentration camp. These people are sick, but they cannot come up with any concrete reasons why this facility is so heinous. The Washington Post tried, they revealed exclusively the horrors of illegal immigrants waiting to be deported, being fed meals of cold ham sandwiches. Someone called The Hague, but it was Democrat Congresswoman Demi Wasserman-Schultz who really exposed the true horror of this institution.
They essentially drink, they get their drinking water and they brush their teeth where they poop in the same unit. They bragged that they went above standards, supposedly, and gave them a 3-foot privacy wall.
So they poop in the same space where they brush their teeth. You mean like a bathroom, like every home in America, every home in the West has? Where is Debbie brushing her teeth? In the dining room? Let's bring in Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, the hyperventilating over this Alligator Alcatraz has not stopped since the name was announced.
You know, Rita, I hate to disappoint your listeners and your viewers, but that woman, Debbie Wasserman-Schultz, that not particularly light bulb, tragically is actually my congresswoman. So woe unto me that is actually our representation in the United States Congress is someone who has not put 2 and 2 together to realize that, oh yeah, it's called the bathroom. It's literally called the bathroom. It's where you do a lot of business. Typically, you have a shower in there too. Maybe Debbie Wasserman-Schultz doesn't know what a shower is. Maybe you should go shower outdoors. I don't know. Here's what I know. Again, this is my congresswoman, unfortunately. So we live in Florida. You know, Rita, we have a lot of attractions here in Florida. We have Disney World. We have Universal Studios, all sorts of fun stuff in Orlando. We have the Keys there. You know, I at this point, given how much the left is just bashing Alligator Alcatraz, I'm inclined to kind of take the family there and just kind of do like a mini vacation there. I mean, let's go to the Everglades. I mean, let's go see it. This is kind of a new, visitor's landmark here in the Sunshine State. But look, I mean, snark aside, this is a foot in the sand moment, not just for the Trump administration, but also for our leadership here in Florida. It is a statement from our governor, Ron DeSantis, from our Attorney General, James Uthmeyer, who's been front and center pushing this idea there. It is a statement that Florida is leading the way as far as red states in the United States go to help this administration execute its #1 priority, which is to effectively do the largest mass deportation operation in American history. By the way, they've been astonishingly successful. The metrics are in border crossings are essentially down to darn well near zero. And Alligator Alcatraz has something to do with that there. So, Rita, it is something to behold. And as a Floridian, I'm quite proud of our latest visitor attraction here, Alligator Alcatraz.
The name. As soon as I heard the name, I thought, I want that cap, I want the T-shirt. It's a brilliant concept. And it's also led to a increase in self-deportation. So a lot of people who are in the country illegally know they're doing the wrong thing, are choosing to go home without having to be forced by ICE agents into a facility like that. Now, let's get to the biggest story of the past week. I'd argue it's the biggest story of the year, of the decade. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, declassified documents revealing overwhelming evidence, Josh, that demonstrated how Barack Obama, together with his national security team, the likes of John Brennan and James Clapper, they manufactured intelligence to create the entire 2016 Russian election interference narrative.
And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. A years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million, 2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who were investigated, some arrested and jailed. We had heightened and increased tensions between the United States and Russia. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a years-long coup, subverting the will of the American people in that election.
That's not hyperbole, Josh. It was a coup. It was a quiet coup, and its impact is still being felt today.
Well, it was an attempt at a coup. The coup failed because Donald Trump did win the 2016 election. But overall, Rita, the Russia collusion delusion, as I like to call it, is really one of the two greatest gaslighting operations perpetrated against the American people in my entire adult lifetime. The other, by the way, is what we just saw last year with the Democrats running a literal mental patient and the lengths that they went to conceal Joe Biden's health for years and years. But the Russiagate hoax is right up there. I mean, those are the top two hoaxes, the top two gaslighting, bamboozling operations of my lifetime. The most astonishing thing about the Russia collusion delusion is twofold. One is, I think we, at this point, especially given what DNI Tulsi Gabbard has said, we can kind of put two and two together and realize that by January 2017, when then FBI Director Comey formally brought in Robert Mueller to do the whole Russiagate probe, a probe, by the way, that took up literally more than half of the Trump presidency. Trump was not exonerated until March 2019, if memory serves. So the entire half of his first term was totally derailed by this. But by the time Comey announced this in January of 2017, they knew, the FBI at that time knew that this was bunk. They absolutely, without question, period, full stop, end of story, would have known this was a Hillary Clinton, Fusion GPS, Perkins Coie political hit job, literally in the context of the 2016 political campaign. So all that is to say that they lied. They lied through their teeth. And it is a good thing. It is a good thing that the Pam Bondi DOJ and the Kash Patel FBI and all of them are now looking into James Comey and John Brennan to try to finally get justice. Now, I don't want to mislead the viewers. I tend to be quite cynical about these things, and we've been burned too many times, Rita, so I'm not going to confidently predict that we're finally going to get justice there. But the fact that to this day, the only semblance, the only iota of justice that we have is that a somewhat obscure former agent by the name of Kevin Kleinsmith had his law license temporarily revoked. That's it. No one has served a day in jail. Throw all the bums in jail, Rita. This is a world historical scandal. I am happy that we're finally seeing the truth come out, but my God, it's a little late, isn't it?
It's a little late, and I think, yes, they didn't succeed, but they did succeed in undermining Trump's first term. They did succeed in undermining the American people's trust in America's democratic systems. How many Democrats to this day think Russia had a hand in determining the 2016 election? That it would be a sizable percentage to this day who don't trust the electoral process because of this deceit. And I just think there has to be accountability, Josh. This can't just be, we finally have some transparency, we're finally exposing the documents are being released, we've got evidence that is indisputable that this happened. There now needs to be charges and people going to jail. Otherwise, what's the point of all this? Basically saying, well, you know, you did your best, don't do it again?
Yeah, no, look, I mean, unless you get some sort of accountability for these scandals here, whether it's the Biden cover-up operation, by the way, all of the White House doctors from the Biden administration all of a sudden have now discovered the Fifth Amendment. They're now pleading the Fifth and saying, I will not testify. That's a slightly sketchy there in that respect there. When it comes to, how about the 51 deep state spook letter that the Biden campaign whipped up about the Hunter Biden laptop story? They had these 51 deep state agents, including Brendan Clapper, all the usual suspects, signing off within 24 hours. Rita, they probably hadn't even read the New York Post article, and they said, oh, it's just Russian disinformation there. COVID-19. I mean, there's so many scandals at this point where I think the American people are just dying and dying for some sort of justice, some sort of accountability. And the longer that we go without any kind of accountability, the more people are going to be searching deep in the bowels of the internet, and the Democrats are going to just, they're going to shriek and howl that, oh, people are going to bad sources to get the information. But you know what? You fools lost your credibility. And unless and until we get some justice, this trend is just going to continue.
Yeah, and so much of this happened after Trump won. So during that transition period, after he won in November 2016, before he was inaugurated, is where these documents show that the Obama administration decided, well, yeah, the evidence shows there was no Russian interference, but we're going to create our own evidence and completely undermine his term in office. And I think the media's role in this cannot be underplayed either, Josh. They wouldn't have got away with so much of what happened if the media held the intelligence community, held these people accountable, because there just wasn't any evidence of what was being alleged. There was no likelihood of what they were saying, and yet the media whipped this hysteria up. Now, let's move on. We had a little argument last week over the Epstein files. You're not too concerned with the story. I am. I want to know how this character came to have this enormous wealth and influence and seemingly protection from authorities for so much of his life. But the polls are in, and I hate to say it, but you were right.
I think this one surprised me a bit because of all of these complaints online going after Trump and the Epstein files. You might think his approval ratings were going down, Republicans. If anything, they're going up. Republicans who approve of Trump, look at our CNN poll. The prior one, 86%. The one out this week, 88% were Republicans. How about Quinnipiac? The prior poll, 87% approve of Republicans. This week out, 90% were Republicans. If anything, Donald Trump's approval rating has gone up since this whole Epstein saga started. He is at the apex, or close there too, in terms of his popularity with Republican voters, Epstein files, complaints, or not.
Now, to be fair, Josh, I never thought this story was going to fracture Trump's supporter base, as some others were alleging, but it's had no impact whatsoever. If anything, his popularity has gone up according to those major polls.
So, Rita, let me just clarify that. I do not think the administration has handled this well. I'll be the very first to say that Attorney General Bondi in particular, it is literally impossible to reconcile her various statements on this. So I'm definitely not going to offer a full-scale apology for the administration on this one. Rather, my only point is that, and I think that now we see the polling data, which corroborates what I was saying, is that I think that the Trump administration is winning on basically all cylinders right now. I mean, with this Epstein files saga aside, I mean, look at literally everything else. Border crossings down to historic lows. I mean, literally approaching zero on a day in, day out basis. We're not there yet, but we're getting shockingly close. Massive victories at the U.S. Supreme Court when it comes to everything from chemical castration on minors, aka so-called gender-affirming care, to nationwide injunctions, to various other major legal victories there. I mean, the Trump administration is just winning. I mean, even on Donald Trump's thus far signature political economy issue, the issue of tariffs, which has been one of the most contentious, controversial issues here in the United States there. It turns out that the new month for which we have data from the federal government there's actually been a massive increase in revenue into the U.S. Treasury from the tariffs. So the crazy old guy's even done it on the tariff issue, right? So he's basically winning on all cylinders. And, you know, Rita, my only point is, look, I mean, the Epstein thing is definitely sketchy. There are a million details there that are deeply, deeply sketchy. The suicide, I mean, all of it. I am definitely not saying it's not sketchy. All I'm saying is that I think the median Trump voter voted for Trump on the kind of issues that he is winning on, and less so for this Epstein issue that he is not necessarily winning massively on.
Now, before you go, I'm interested in your take on the meltdown we've seen in the media amongst actors and commentators over Stephen Colbert's terrible, terrible program being axed. He's been on air for 33 years, had a massive run, Josh, this show was losing between $40 and $50 million a year. The audience had plummeted, and yet people are saying this is a political hit job.
You know, I remember when Stephen Colbert was on Comedy Central back in the day. I mean, he actually was kind of sort of funny. He did this is back during the Bush administration, back when Colbert kind of first came to power. He would kind of pretend to be a Bush administration, a John McCain, Lindsey Graham-esque neoconservative. He was kind of making all these funny arguments about going all in on Iraq and Afghanistan, and it was obviously satirical, but it was actually kind of funny. Even as a conservative, I used to enjoy him. But as soon as Colbert got the CBS late night gig, I mean, he just stopped being funny essentially overnight. I mean, he lost the whole satire thing. He's just kind of an angry, snarky guy who's not particularly funny. He brings essentially no entertainment value. So, I mean, good riddance, good freaking riddance there. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you frankly just love to see. At this point, Rita, the scalp that I want to see next is Jimmy Kimmel, because Jimmy Kimmel has lost his he's lost his everlasting mind. Another man, by the way, who once upon a time was kind of sort of funny. You give these guys the big old ABC, CBS, NBC late night show. They apparently immediately stopped being funny there. So good thing that we got Colbert. I say let's get Jimmy Kimmel next, though.
They are. They're just miserable moaners masquerading as comedians. There's nothing funny about them these days. They just lecture incessantly from a far left point of view, and no wonder Greg Gutfeld is cleaning up, is the highest rating in that late night time slot. Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time.